What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I figured I'd do a little recovery kind of video. I was getting a couple DMs about books that really helped me in my recovery. I figured I might as well share, like make a video on it. I did make a video a long time ago, like way long time ago, like ancient history, long time ago. I figured I'd just do an updated version. I'm gonna include a lot of the same books I had mentioned previously, just because they had such a profound impact in my own recovery, as well as a couple books I have read recently that I found really beneficial in advancing my recovery in general. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to give a quick shout out and a big thank you to today's sponsor, Skillshare. So if you're unfamiliar with Skillshare, they're an online learning community where you can take thousands of different classes ranging from graphic design, photography, animation, writing, creative journaling, basically anything you can think of. And lately I've been loving this food photography class because, as you know, I've been working on an ebook that I'm planning to get out this summer. So I've been loving taking the food photography class by Dalton, and I will leave it linked in the description box if you are interested in checking it out. But so far I've been really liking it. It's kind of like dark and moody kind of food photography, which is very different from what I'm used to taking, but I found it really cool to still learn something and like different angles and all that kinds of stuff. Skillshare has no ads, meaning you're able to take your classes without any distractions. They're always launching new classes, so you'll almost never be bored. Skillshare has been kind enough to offer the first 1,000 of you guys a free trial of the premium membership with the link in the description box. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you check them out. Thank you again, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video, and without further ado, let's get back into it. I'm just gonna like hop right into it. First book I would recommend is Life Without Ed by Jenni Schaefer. This was one of the first books I actually read in my recovery. It was really impactful for me, and that it showed me that the eating disorder is separate from me as an individual. And I think that's so important in recovery, is that so often people associate themselves with the eating disorder as if they're one and the same, when in fact you're two very different entities or beings. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but basically it really helped me to detach myself from the eating disorder. She kind of talks about the eating disorder as like a bad boyfriend, which I thought was really fitting. And she talks about like writing a letter divorcing your eating disorder and like little activities you can do. She also wrote another book, which is like the second one to this one. I haven't read it yet, but all I know is that the first one was really helpful for me. Highly recommend this book. The next book is one that I actually read while in treatment, and it's called Intuitive Eating, A Revolutionary Program That Works by Evelyn, Tribole, and Elyse Resch. This is a pretty iconic book in the eating disorder recovery realm. Almost every dietitian I know that works with eating disorders has read this book, and my dietitian actually recommended me to read this book, so that's why I ended up reading it while I was in treatment, and I actually found it really interesting. It's also where the idea of intuitive eating stems from. It was from these two women, and it's based on the whole 10 principles, which they go into detail in this book. And yeah, it really helped me to understand and come to terms with my body in recovery, and also introduced me to intuitive eating. Another addition to this book would be the Intuitive Eating Workbook. I actually worked through this book while I was in treatment. It was like one of the activities we had to do. And what I like about this is it's like if you read it alongside with the book, there's a bunch of activities you can do. I do suggest if you read this book that you get this book as well to accompany it, because I think it can really drive home the message that the book's trying to communicate, and you'll take away more. The next book I will share is called Rehabilitate, Rewire, and Recover by Tabitha Farrar. And if you are unfamiliar with who Tabitha Farrar is, you need to watch her videos, because I will link her in the description box, but her YouTube channel really saved me when I was in recovery, because she just kind of has like this blunt nature to her where she'll just tell you straight up what's going wrong, and it forces you to kind of like own up to your stuff. And I really like that about her. Whenever I'd feel like these tempting thoughts were like coming my way, I'd just watch her videos and she'd kind of like snap me back into it, like, oh yeah, this is what I need to be doing and this is why. Basically this book is like all her videos combined, and it's just really helpful. And she also approaches it in like a scientific way too. It's not too science-based, but she does reference a couple articles and a couple like things that force you to like look at how this isn't just something that's happening to you, it's something that's been happening to other people as well, and there's studies that show this is why we react certain ways in when you're going through an eating disorder. It kind of helped me to realize that I'm not alone. So yeah, this book pertains to if you've lost your period, but I will assume if you're going through an eating disorder recovery and you are a woman that you probably lost your period, because it's one of the very common signs of having an eating disorder. So this other book really helped me, and it's No Period Now What by Dr. Nicola Rinaldi. I really like this because again, she backs this up with a lot of studies and a lot of science on why you need to eat more and why rest is so important when you're in recovery and trying to get your period back. I really like books that are spiritual, but I also like books that are scientific because it just kind of helps me feel more encouraged and more confident in my decisions in recovery. I highly recommend this book if you're one of those people that really like to have concrete evidence when you're about to do something, because this book does a really good job at just reinforcing why you need to be eating more, why rest is so important, and why if you just trust the process, your period will come back and that you're going to be okay and that you're not alone. This is an awesome book, and there's also a Facebook support group, which I will leave a link to in the description box as well. But when I was working on getting my period back, I really benefited from the support group. It was really nice to be surrounded by other women that were going through the same thing as me and were able to support me and encourage me on my own journey. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend you check them out. But yeah, this was another awesome book. This other book, I forget how I came across this book. I think I was like in the bookstore, but it's called Life Beyond Your Eating Disorder by Johanna S. Kandel. And she is the creator, or the founder and executive director of the Alliance for Eating Disorder Awareness. So this is the book, and what I really liked about this one is she includes a lot of affirmations and activities you can do to help your healing journey. So one of the things, there's this one chapter I had highlighted a couple things here, and she was talking about taking it one meal at a time. And one thing she says is, don't let the fact that you did well at breakfast or lunch or for one whole day overwhelm you into worrying that you have to live up to some standard you've established for yourself. And I think that's something we so often do in eating disorder recovery, is that we have this one perfect day in recovery and then we expect every day in recovery to follow that. And if it doesn't, then it was a failure, or if it was a horrible day. And that's just not true. Recovery, again, is not linear. So it's about the accumulation of steps you take. It's not about perfecting every single step. And then she also says, leave each meal behind when you leave the table. So not focusing on what happened before. When you're making a decision for dinner, don't worry about what you had for lunch or what happened at breakfast. Just focus on the moment. This other book I really loved. It's called Eat It Anyway and Fight the Food Fads, Beat Anxiety, and Eat in Peace. It's by Simmons and Dennison. And what I liked about this one is there's humor, and it's also like blunt. Like, it's kind of like about ditching diet culture and just getting rid of food labels. They were like deconstructing wellness myths, stuff like that. So it was really insightful. It was really fun to read and also relate to. It just brought recovery on a more humorous level, and understanding that at the end of the day, it really is just food. It's something to be enjoyed. It's something to go out with your friends and have spontaneously. It's not something to fixate on every second of every day, and it's not something to base your worth on. So I really liked this book if you're into something like lighthearted, but also deliver a lot of information and insightful things that you can apply in your own recovery. So yeah. So going off the idea of ditching diet culture and different diet labels, I really liked The Yoga of Eating by Charles Eisenstein. He basically just talks about how diet culture today communicates many false claims about optimal health and basically paints certain foods as bad when all foods fit. All foods have a place in one's life and in one's own spiritual journey, and he basically connects spirituality to food as like something sacred. And I think it's so important for us to understand that food is sacred, and that us consuming food is a tribute to our bodies and all the beautiful things they can do, and just honoring that and recognizing that is so important, and he does a really good job at communicating that in his book. So highly recommend if you want a spiritual read that can also give you tools and reinforcement and encouragement in your own recovery. Another book is Eating in the Light of the Moon by Anita Johnston, and I cannot tell you how much I love this book. I also read this one in treatment, and I love it because it's kind of like a bunch of different metaphorical stories that she puts in this book, and it just kind of embodies what happens when we dip too far into the masculine energy and how we can reconnect to the feminine. I just think it's really cool. It forces you to change your perspective about eating disorders and about your relationship with food and your own body and your own self, and really reflect the balance of your own masculine and feminine energy, and then take steps towards balancing it out. So I really like this. If you're one of the kinds of people that loves poetry, that loves stories, that just loves metaphors and turning things into analogies and having symbolism and things, I highly recommend this book because it did a great job of reflecting that while also providing tons of information and insight to you if you're in recovery. This book is one of my favorites, and it's called The Self-Love Experiment by Shannon Kaiser. Also one of the first books I had read in my recovery when I was just starting it way back in 2016, 2017. And I really liked it because not only does it have like loads of affirmations, but she talks about her own struggles with like body image and disordered eating and just like overcoming all those things, whilst also just developing and cultivating self-love for herself and the discoveries and revelations she made on her own journey. So it's kind of like a memoir in that she talks a lot about her own journey, but it also is a really good book to like deliver information and tools that you can apply on your own self-love journey and your own recovery as well. The final book I will be sharing is The Goddess Revolution by Mel Wells. This book was really profound in my own life. It just, for me, again, this is another memoir where she talks a lot about her own journey and her own eating disorder and how she recovered from it. I really liked this book because it was relatable. It is a memoir and she's talking a lot about her own eating disorder and her own recovery journey, is that you're able to be more empathetic and that it's not just a bunch of tools being thrown at you. You're able to relate to the struggles she describes in the book and the situation she finds herself in and how she was able to overcome them and look at them as opportunities and just recover, really. When they're written in like a memoir format, it kind of acts as a reminder to you that you're not alone and that your struggles are not just your struggles, but they're also the struggles of many other young women and men out there. And if they can overcome it and if they can do it, so can you. So that's what I really liked from this book. And she also has another book, which I will also link in the description box if you're interested. But yeah, highly recommend this book. Okay guys, so that is going to wrap it up for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and you kind of got a little information that you didn't have previously, and it inspired you to pick up some of these books or check some of them out. Again, I'll be leaving all of them linked in the description box if you want to check them out. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it and if you want me to make more of these kinds of recovery or sit down chat videos, please let me know and give it a thumbs up. But if you didn't like it, just give it a thumbs down. But know that I'm sending so much love and good vibes to each and every one of you today. I hope you're having a beautiful day so far, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.